On the 596th day of the war in Ukraine, the fighting was concentrated in these areas. In Donetsk front, heavy battles are ongoing near Avdiivka, where the Russian army continues to launch more assaults north and southwest of the Ukrainian stronghold. Yesterday, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that the Russian army attacked with the force of at least 3 battalions and hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles, while according to the Russian sources, in this offensive the Russian army engaged up to 5,000 soldiers. On the third day of their offensive, the Russian army continued to attack near Avdiivka, trying to advance north and southwest of the town, but without achieving any visible success. In fact, regardless of the hasty reports coming from pro-Russian sources, it seems that the Russian offensive has stalled, and now in its third day it appears to be losing momentum. In the northern part of the front line, in the vicinity of Stepove, the activity of the Russian forces significantly dropped compared to the previous days. Russian forces made another attempt to push through the Ukrainian lines using large armored convoys up to 7 armored vehicles. However, Russian forces were spotted by the Ukrainian 129th Territorial Defense Brigade, which fired at the Russian assault units using artillery and anti-tank missiles. At least 2 armored vehicles were destroyed, with 3 more reportedly abandoned by the Russian troops, who then tried to hide and take cover in the nearby forests. So far in this direction, there is still no evidence that the Russian forces have crossed the railway. Only on this small area of less than 2 square kilometers west of Krasnohorivka, Russians lost at least 3 tanks and 6 BMP infantry fighting vehicles. The situation near the waste hill north of the chemical plant of Avdiivka remains unclear. Although the Russian army sent a massive armored convoy of at least 25 tanks and armored vehicles to attack in this direction, it seems that the Russian forces were not able to make any significant gains, as fighting is still ongoing near this area. In the northern part of the front line, Russian forces have only managed to push about 1 kilometer west into the grey areas, but so far they have not been able to capture any Ukrainian settlement or strategic position. So far, in total, the confirmed and geolocated losses in this direction are at least 5 damaged and destroyed tanks, as well as at least 12 armored vehicles, mainly BMPs and MTLBs. Numbers are even higher if we count the losses that are not geolocated yet. On the southern part of the front line, Russian forces were more active during the last 24 hours, but even here they were not able to make any visible progress. Russian forces launched more armored assaults from the towns of Pisky and Vodiane towards the Ukrainian positions near Pervomaiske and Sevierne. As I mentioned on my previous video, in order to relieve the pressure on their forces in Severne, it seems that Ukrainian forces near Pervomaiske actively participated in this battle by launching counterattacks on the Russian flank. Previously, the Russian army engaged some of their forces and artillery units in this direction, but the constant pressure may have forced them to come up with a stronger response. Today, the Russian army conducted massive shelling using their TOS-1A MLRS and moved assault units in 2 directions to attack the Ukrainian forces in Pervomaiske. Armored units advanced from the east and southeast and approached the grey area, where they fell under heavy artillery fire from the 53rd Mechanized Brigade and the 59th Motorized Brigade of the Ukrainian army. Being under heavy fire, it seems that the Russian forces lost their coordination and both armored units ran over the minefields that Ukrainian forces had placed on the outskirts of the town. During this operation, Russians lost at least 4 tanks and 2 armored vehicles. According to Ukrainian sources, so far on their offensive in Avdiivka, the Russian army has lost at least 48 pieces of equipment, while with the unconfirmed losses, the numbers should be even higher. Seeing that the biggest Russian advance is about 1 kilometer west of Krasnohorivka, it looks like the Russian offensive is on the way to become a total disaster. Friends, if you like my daily updates, I kindly ask you to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as this will greatly help the channel to reach a wider audience. That's all for today's update. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, and have a great day.